Iniciar a gravação e admitir toda a gente.
Morning.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are.
A good afternoon will be better, yes. It is 4 o'clock.
Yeah, let's just wait a few minutes because I have here people still trying to enter. Okay, I think we can start. Katarina, if someone else tries to enter, please accept, because we want as many participants as we can. So hello everyone, welcome to one of our AfriConEU Networking Academy webinars. Please note that this session will be recorded and uploaded on YouTube and on our project webinar, so please, I hope you are okay with it. You will hear more about our project in a few minutes, but I want to let you know that this is not a standalone activity, so it is part of our Networking Academy that encompasses several activities, webinars, masterclasses, workshops, and so on. So this is not a standalone webinar. Our topic today is leverage startup creation from innovative technologies, and we have an amazing guest that I will introduce later on. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Catarina Reis. I am project officer at the Center for Business Innovation at Porto Business School. Porto Business School is one partner from this consortium of the AfriConEU project, together with more 10 partners from 9 countries. Our role in this project has been mainly as program designers, so we have a huge role in designing these masterclasses, webinars, and workshops together with our partners. And having said that, I will give the floor to Sasa Stross from Innovation Technology Cluster in Slovenia for her to present the AfriConEU project. Sasa, the floor is yours. If you want to present, you can share your screen. And please let us know more about the AfriConEU project.
Thank you, Katarina, for giving me the word and the floor. Let me share my screen. Hopefully you are seeing it in the full presentation.
Not yet in the presentation mode. Okay, now it's in presentation mode. It's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. And then let's look at our project. This is the first trans-continental networking academy and for African and the European digital innovation hub. And I will guide you through the project. I'm Sasha Strauss, and I'm a food system expert in ITC and Digital Innovation Hub Agri-Food from Slovenia. And we are one of the project partners, and others are the ITBN from United Kingdom, the Porto Business School, as you all already know, the Innova, which is our coordinator. From Italy, we have the Pixel, from Greece, Youth Makers Hub and Stimuli. And from Africa, we have HEPA Space, Emerging Communities Africa, and from Uganda, we have Outbooks, and from Tanzania, we have Buni Hub. And our AfriCon project is want to support African and European digital innovation hubs in capacity building, knowledge sharing, networking, collaboration, joint project, and venture development. As you are aware, the digital innovation hubs are regional multi-partner cooperation. They are one-stop shops. They are aiming at digital technologies and want to digitalize the sector they are dealing with, or they are sector agnostic. They can assess the latest knowledge, expertise, and technologies. They have the environmental for piloting, testing, and experimenting, and they also have business and financing support. And the main objective of our project is to develop the first networking academy, which aims to facilitate knowledge and experience sharing, drive the development of mutually beneficial partnership, and support the creation of collective projects to boost the digital economy, empowering youth and women, and fostering innovation and growth. And for these purposes, we have 5 phases. One was to know what we are dealing with, to get better insights. So we do the context and state-of-the-art analysis. This is already concluded. And then we have the phase 2 to develop the academy and its 2 flagship programs. And this is also concluded, and phase 3 is also concluded. This was the rollout, implementation, and assessment, where we built our program for all of these webinars, workshops that we already have, and we will proceed with that. And now we are in phase 4, which is community development and results uptake, and phase 5, a horizontal phase aiming at communication and dissemination. And I think that you all have seen our LinkedIn and other social media posts, and you are well aware what we are doing. And here to Networking Academy, as I think that most of you that are participating today was already involved in several of our activities, because we have a lot of workshops, webinars, and masterclass already. And in November, we have also the International Brokerage event in Bologna in Italy. And for this year, we plan also for boot camps, and at the end of our project, the capitalization event. We have 4 important themes, and one is business development models and multi-actor approach. Second is technology transfer of innovative technologies. And today's webinars is part of this pillar. And the third one is startup financial support, and the 4th is digital and entrepreneur skills development. And also for the flagship program, we have the thematics toward a common digital market, digitalization's jobs for the 21st century, and third is business and investment opportunities in the African market, and 4 is the scouting digital entrepreneurs and startups in the African market. So as I mentioned already, the brokerage event was in November, and the 4 boot camps will be held in this year in July and in September, if I'm correct, in all the partnering countries of our project in Africa. And as you can see here, we had a lot of interesting events with interesting speakers, and it was a lot of opportunities for knowledge transfer. And if you missed that one out, you can also see it on the YouTube channel. And in this year, you have opportunity to join some more masterclass webinars and also the workshops. And if you want to attend some of the our events, you can register to them, and they are all for free. That it is from my side. If anyone has any question, otherwise, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Sasa, for presenting our interesting project. But now it's time for us to focus on the webinar. So let me introduce you to Rodrigo Dalvarenga. Rodrigo lives within the entrepreneurial ecosystem as investor, mentor, entrepreneur himself, and professor focused on social and tech-based entrepreneurship. He is a venture builder expert. He founded Hive Ventures and invested in several startups across the globe. He also mentored, assessed, and supported startups and entrepreneurs in several international programs. Rodrigo is passionate about complex problem solving and uncovering people's potential. So besides being a mentor on those international programs, he also is part of the jury of the MIT Innovators and the Under 35 Award in Europe and Latin American editions. And is also his professional trajectory was also awarded the 10th Brazilian edition of the Astor Prize, and he was also nominated to the top 50 global thought leaders in startups and entrepreneurship, M&A, and in open innovation. So he is a perfect fit, of course, for this webinar. Rodrigo, thank you very much for accepting our invitation and being here with us today. Can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself and Hive Ventures before entering into the topic of the webinar?
Sure. Well, first of all, welcome everybody. Thank you very much, Katarina, and thank you very much, Sasha. I hope I have pronounced your name correctly. It is a pleasure for me to be here. I am absolutely convinced that the most important thing we can do is always to support one another and help new entrepreneurs to start their journey. So for me, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm gonna share a very brief presentation with you just to help me to talk about this extra thing you asked me, Katarina. Let me just share my screen. So yeah, Katarina has done a great job advancing pretty much everything that I was about to say. Anyway, my name is Rodrigo Dalvarenga, and I have pursued, although I'm not an academic per se, I haven't started my career as a professor. I have always worked in the financial markets and with other things, innovation, etc. But I have spent a lot of my time also developing my academic background. And I started by graduating business, then later taking specialization in banking and international finance, global management and leadership, another specialization in economic development. And then I did an MBA, after that a master's degree, an entrepreneurship program in the US, two actually, and I'm finishing up my PhD degree in industrial engineering and systems. And the subject of my PhD degree is basically what we call venture building, which in other words is basically creating new ventures or startups. I have worked in all sorts of things within within innovation per se. Katarina mentioned a lot of them, so I won't bother you with that. But the good thing about the experiences I had is the fact that I have had the opportunity to work alongside entrepreneurs in MENA region, Europe, European Union, Canada, US, Latam, Brazil, and a bit in Asia and Western Asia. So that experience helped me to understand all the differences we may encounter out there when an entrepreneur is trying to launch a new venture. From a track record perspective, my career started when I was 13 years old. I self-taught I learned myself how to develop software. And I started working in a company back there just to have some funds to pay for like an ice cream, etc., to go out, dine out, etc. My father used to have a very strict rule on, lending us money to do anything. So he had a hard job taking care of our family. So he told me and taught me that if you want to do things that I can't afford, either you produce your own money or you're gonna have to wait until you have a job, right? And I basically decided, okay, that's fair enough, but so I'm gonna start working for somebody in order to have my own money. And that's how I started. I've learned after more or less 4 years that as a developer, I used to be a very good biker. I've learned how to do it, but I've never loved it. So when I started university, I had like the same problem as millions of people in Brazil. I didn't have enough money to pay for university. So I had to start a new kind of a job that could help me to afford university. So I moved into banking and I started as the lowest position possible. And I spent 21 years working in the financial markets, almost 12 as a regional superintendent and a regional director in charge of the wholesale banking and the corporate banking in the south of Brazil. I've spent years working pretty much 3 different multinational banks, HSBC Group, Safra Group, and Santander Group, and have had several years as an investment banker, spent some time as a trader. So I have done a lot within the financial markets. But all this is history. What matters to us today is basically what happened next, right? So I was fed up in the financial market, trying to find some sort of a purpose to keep moving forward. And I realized that the only way I could do it was if I started my own company. So I was not like an entrepreneur. I was not jumping out of the cliff, trying to build up an airplane before hitting the ground. I decided to launch a consulting company. And after a while, I would leave the financial market and take care of my company. But I've planned really well. And everything happened in a completely different way. I launched the company. Like a few months later, I was invited to invest in a proof of concept business to check and validate if the market would absorb that kind of business at the time. And I did it. And that was the beginning of a completely unexpected new career. That happened in 2010. And from that point on, I started doing the same. Then I started looking for information about it. I ended up visiting Silicon Valley. And in between 2010 and 2013, I basically traveled there several times to learn how to do angel investments. But I've learned so many more and so much more about how to help entrepreneurs to develop their own startups, how to help them to launch it, how to educate entrepreneurs. And that was something we didn't have in Brazil at the time. We were in the very, very beginning of what we know nowadays as the Brazilian innovative ecosystem. Pretty much a very small bunch of people trying to do something, spread it all over the country. And from that point on, I completely changed my career. I left the financial market in 2013, took over my company, completely changed it into a venture builder, and started doing 3 things: supporting entrepreneurs in Brazil, basically by angel investing on them, by creating some sort of a journey to help them to learn how to do it. And on the other hand, I kept fostering my relationships overseas, and that ended up creating many opportunities that happened before, after that. So at the end of the day, I have spent the last almost 12 years working with innovation entrepreneurs and programs, accelerators, investors, and the ecosystem as a whole in all these regions in the world over time. The last almost 6 years, I've been spending some time as a board member or an advisor board member in different companies, public traded or family owned. I have helped to design, implement, and execute programs, venture building programs, acceleration programs, also investment vehicles with corporates, angel investors networks in different countries. I am still doing it nowadays. I'm here because of that, because of the relationships and the friendships I have cultivated over the last years. And this has been the most fulfilling career and journey I have ever had. And I've never planned to have it. And that's why, most probably, that's why I'm happy in doing what I do nowadays. So I don't want even to talk about it, but I have traveled around to all sorts of places over time to speak at events, to do programs, to mentor, to check on investment opportunities, to do joint programs, etc. And here we have some of the startups that we have invested. We have invested in plus 75 startups, extremely early stage. That means a high mortality rate. And we have had 3 exits so far, one outside of Brazil and 2 here in Brazil. And we are still moving forward. And most probably you're gonna hear about some new things that we are at this point working on, and we plan to launch at the end of this year. Okay. Katarina, did I answer your question well, not well? Is it something missing?
Perfectly. But yeah, I missed to tell participants that you are original from Brazil.
Yeah. Yeah. My mother's family is from Italy. My father's family has a mix from Portugal, from Spain, and from here, indigenous people. And I was born in São Paulo, Brazil. I don't live in São Paulo anymore. I'm in São Paulo right now, but I live in a city that is more or less 400 kilometers down south, called Curitiba, which is well known in the world as a very sustainable, one of the most sustainable cities in the world.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think you answered very well. So maybe we can jump in our topic, this leverage startup creation from innovative technologies.
Great. So I want to make sure that we're going to have time to talk to each other and to have some sort of a Q&A at the end. I'm quite sure that all the participants that are here may have their own questions. They may be trying to launch a startup right now. They may be facing some sort of a challenge or a roadblock, etc. I want to make sure that we're going to have time for that. So I'll start this subject right now, but please make sure that in case you have any questions, you can either ask me. Don't bother, you can ask me right away, or you can write it down so we can come back to your questions later. That's up to you. I am not going to be able to see your hands if you raise your hand. So in case you want to ask something, just interrupt me and we can stop and deal with your question, okay? Great. So this is quite an interesting and vast subject. So we could be here for ages, not hours, to deal with this subject. I have prepared a combination of things that I guess are going to help you, mostly if you're on the early stage situation, or if you're planning to launch a company soon enough. I guess what I have prepared is going to help you, but I would be, I'm glad to not just answer your questions today, but in case you have anything else, we can perhaps have like an email with your questions, and I can try to come back to them afterwards. Okay, so one last thing about me. I am passionate about venture building people. That is the thing I have discovered late in life. I am 49 years old, and took me few decades to see me as mostly as an impact-driven entrepreneur who is passionate about venture building people. That's my impact-driven secret project. Changing as many lives as I can by changing their people's mindsets, as well as personal and professional development. This is what I love to do. And I would like to reach the point in which I'm gonna do it every day, in the entire days of my week, and without bothering with anything else. So first thing first, right? Launching a company, even if you say you're not impact driven, it is a matter of impact. You're going to impact lives, yours, your families, your employees, and the surroundings, right? If whatever you're launching makes sense, you're going to impact the lives of your users, your clients. So there is no way we can talk about launching new companies without talking about impact. We always impact the world, either because we are more sustainable, because we are more efficient, because we are more people-driven, because we reduce the number of layers or the distance between products and services and the customers. So in one way or another, we're going to impact society economically and personally. This is impossible to exclude. This effect is embedded into the fact that if you're launching new companies, you are creating an impact. Perhaps if it's a bad company, if you position yourself, you explore people, etc., you're gonna create a bad impact. But anyway, you're gonna create impact. So technology-based business are the most are the ones that are, you know, in all programs around the world. We focus on tech-based business, and the reason is the fact that tech-based business allow us to have a scale that can achieve much more change, impact, and results than, for example, if you have a local-based business that is a bakery, for example. So there is no right or wrong. There is no business that is more important than the other. The fact is, there will be business that impact more or less, that reach their existence will touch more lives, will create more or less efficiency, will create more or less impact. But we need all of them. We need the small businesses, we need medium-sized business, we need tech-based business, we need industries, we need all this up and running the best they can, so we can have a more sustainable society as a whole. Three of the most relevant, let's say, business models you're going to find out there when we're talking about technology could be represented by these three examples. What we call IaaS, infrastructure as a service, what we call PaaS, platform as a service, and what we call SaaS, software as a service. There are other business models, but these three kind of represent a large majority of the number of business out there, one way or another. Let me give you an example, a very basic and simple example, right? Let's consider pizza as a service. Whenever you want to call a restaurant to order pizza, in comparison to you producing the pizza at home with your wife, family, etc. So from one extreme, you have what they call on-premises. You're gonna do it at home yourself, everything. So what do you need? You need a dining table, you need something to drink, you need electricity, gas, an oven, fire or electricity, depending on the kind of oven you have. You're gonna need the pizza dough, you're gonna need tomato sauce, toppings, cheese, whatever. So you need to have everything in order to produce such pizza. These three business models I have mentioned, they have changed the dynamics of things, how things happen. Let's talk about the first one, infrastructure as a service. In this case, following the pizza example, what's going to happen is that the green part is going to be provided to you as an infrastructure. So if we are focusing on pizza, the infrastructure here is the pizza dough, the tomato sauce, the toppings, the cheese, and you yourself will have the dining table, something to drink, electricity, oven, etc., to finish up the pizza. You're not doing everything as in the previous one, as an on-premise approach, but still you are doing part of what you need to have the pizza done in your family dine with you. So this is what we could call the take and bake. You could pass on the supermarket, take a pizza ready to go, just get to your home and turn on your oven and finish up the pizza. The next option would be a platform as a service, right? What is a platform as a service? It's something that delivers to you almost everything, right? So in that case, you're gonna call the pizza delivery guy. iFood, whatever app you have to deliver pizza, you're gonna use it and the pizza will get to your home ready to eat. The only thing you're gonna provide is basically the dining table, something to drink, and of course your family, friends, etc. And the last layer is what we call software as a service. That is exactly you going out with your family to have the pizza in a restaurant. You don't need to do anything. Everything is going to be there for you. I know and I understand this is well, Rodrigo, this is about pizza, right? But this illustrates really well the difference of all three business models. Actually, they are a fraction of one another. And this is about how much you want to do yourself instead of paying for everything ready. That's what we're talking about. And that applies to technology. I'm going to give you a few examples in a bit. So about infrastructure as a service, this is like a host, right? If you use a host, this is the infrastructure like a service. You're going to have to produce everything. Like you're going to have to build your website. You're going to have to deal with all the technical stuff, but it's going to be hosted by a third party. So instead of buying all the hardware, users pay for an infrastructure as a service on demand. Depending on the needs of processing and storage, the infrastructure is going to be scalable. Companies can reduce hardware costs and maintain their own hardware if they want, or at least a fraction of it. Because the data is in the cloud, there is no failure. Allows virtualization of administrative tasks, freeing up time for other jobs. so on and so forth. This is one example. If we talk about a platform as a service, this is like the build part, right? So the key features is going to be like provides a platform with tools to test, develop, and host applications in the same environment. It allows organizations to focus on development without worrying about underlying infrastructure. Providers provide managers, security, operation, systems, servers, software, and backups. Facilitates collaborative work, even if teams work remotely. And if we go for the software as a service, this would be like you consume. So just going back for you to remind us, if you go for an infrastructure as a service, you're going to be host, or someone is hosting you. A third party is hosting you, part of what you need. If you go for a platform as a service, you're going to build upon the platform using everything that is in there. So the part that you build is going to be the personalization of whatever you need, the way you want it. And if you go for a software as a service, you're going to consume, right? For example, if we talk about streaming services, they are a software as a service approach. The content is there, the platform is there, the search engine is there, everything is there. You don't have to do anything. You just pay a monthly fee and that's it. Everything is going to work for you. You don't have even to buy the Blu-ray or whatever. Nobody buys this kind of things anymore in general because it's all there. You pay per use or you pay per month. In an environment like this, the providers offers you the software, the apps under subscription models mostly, most of the time. Users do not need to manage, install, upgrade, etc. Everything works by itself. Data is secure in the cloud. Equipment failure does not result in data loss. You don't own the data. Netflix shows the content to you. If something happened, it's on them to fix it and to provide the show that you want to see for you. You don't need to do anything. Resources users can scale depending on service and needs. Apps are accessible from virtually every device connected on the internet, from anywhere in the world. So examples we could use here, infrastructure as a service, AWS, Microsoft Azure, platform as a service, Red Hat, OpenShift, software as a service, Google Drive, Office 365, Netflix, so on and so forth. The very reason I'm bringing this topic to you, all of you, to share with you is basically to give you some sense of whatever you want to do. It's not necessarily all the time in one of these three categories, but you're gonna somehow benefit from one of these three categories, one way or another. Perhaps your service is not necessarily an infrastructure as a service, but you're gonna be using Microsoft Azure. So either you're gonna use it or you're gonna provide it, sometimes both, but the modern startups, one way or another, they will touch these grounds. And I wanted to make it simple so everybody could understand and relate this concept with whatever you already know. Let's go back to what I mentioned in the very beginning, social impact business. Nowadays, we normally address tech startups, tech-based startups, impact-driven startups, as it was like two different categories. Sometimes they are, but always you impact society when you launch a new company, considering that you at least achieve some sort of success in whatever you intended, right? If that is true, you're going to be impacting society anyway. But there are businesses that are not just impacting society as a consequence, but they are designed to impact society on purpose. So you are designing the kind of impact you want to create. So in that particular case, there are a lot of other things to consider, but in general, all business will impact society, and understanding that will help you to understand how you're going to relate to your users, how you're going to relate to your customers, how you're going to relate to your stakeholders. Do you understand the impact that you create? Are you completely changing an industry? Let's use the Uber example once more. Uber cemented a change in an industry that needed a change, but was not ready for it, the automotive industry. They completely changed the world by helping people to realize, hey, I don't need to own a car. I want to move around. So the cars used to be seen as a property, and people started seeing it like a usage, like mobility. I can use a car, I can take a bus, I can use something that they have in Portugal. I always forget the name of this thing. The electric patinetes. How do you call that in Portugal?
O elétrico ou o metro?
Yeah. No. The small thing that you use like by yourself. You have a lot to rent all over the city.
Trotinetes?
It's an electric. Yes, trottinette. I love this word, but I fail to remember it. It is awesome. I have used it so many times. So you can move around with this very small thing that looks like a child, something to play, electric, and you can move around. And then if you need, you can take an Uber, etc. So the important thing is not just one startup did it. It was a conjunction of companies changing the scenario, but the one that is pretty much represents the change is Uber. Independently of whatever they have done wrong, and they have done a lot of things the wrong way, but that the important thing is that they have completely changed the way we see mobility nowadays. And we can't go back. There's no way we will go back to whatever we had before Uber. So this is a company that impacted an entire industry that has a lot of thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of employees all over the world, direct employees or indirect employees. As I said, there is good impact and bad impact, but there is always impact one way or another, right? So understanding this helps you to check if you're creating a good impact. This may be used by your own company to create traction, to help people understand that you're changing something in a good way. We could discuss about a lot of things that connects to impact measurement, etc. I'm not going to waste a lot of time in here, but in case you are looking into a startup that's impact driven or that creates an important impact, and you want to be sure you are considering this into what you're doing, doesn't matter if you're going to be using a technology, if this is going to be a combination, a hybrid tech plus people. The fact is, if you're doing something like this, you would like to, for sure, you should at least try to understand this subject, impact measurement, and incorporate this into the business that you're building, one way or another. This is to be like to kind of scare you, but that's not true. Impact can be calculated and metrified, and there are different tools to help you do that. And by being capable of using the metrics of all impact that you're creating, this is even more interesting for investors. The number of investors that are moving from investing regularly into considering impact when investing, all the way to becoming an impact-driven investor, these numbers are growing. So by understanding the impact you create, by being able to metrify that and to show this to your investors, you may end up attracting more investors than you think. And although this is true, the formula is not like this, because if it was, nobody would be able to calculate impact whatsoever. The most important theory that supports it is what we call the theory of change. And I won't explain this right now, but we can, if we have time at the end, we can come back here and I can explain this very briefly. And this is one of my favorite metrics for impact measurement that connects with investments, which is called SROI, which means social return on investment. And it basically, we calculate this by dividing the value of the benefits you create over the value of your investments. And the benefits here is not what your business intend to create. Like, for example, oh, so if I'm selling, should I divide my sales over my investments? No, this is about the impact. So whatever you are doing that creates an extra effect that is impact, this extra is the benefit that you are creating. You should divide over the investments you have received. So just to give you an example to make it more feasible, let's imagine that you're gonna launch a school, and you say, okay, because I'm launching a online school, everything I do is gonna impact someone. Yes, that's true. But if your students, the students that come in, they would be able to choose any other school and they're going to receive exactly the same education, and there's nothing different, and they are paying exactly the same they would pay for whatever other school, you are not doing anything different. You're not creating any difference. So what we call impact is difference that you create, and which explains why it's different if I enroll my son in your school compared to others. And that's not about, oh, we have karate classes, extra classes, we have extra math classes. Math is already there, right? It's about, for example, I'm gonna focus this kind of school in a specific region, and for each student that comes in, I'm gonna sponsor a poor kid that can't pay for school. This poor kid may have access to a public school or may not. If this kid doesn't have, everything you do is going to be impacted. If this kid would have access, what you should measure is the quality of your education compared to the public school, and the difference you can create. This is the impact you're creating. In other words, to make it very simple, if I have a school and at the end of my school years, my students perform much better than other students in government tests, whatever test, the difference is the impact you're creating. Okay, moving forward. This is the part that I'm gonna spend more time in it. I don't have that many slides from this point on. I have some slides and some provocative thinking to share with you. But I would like to congratulate all of you right now. Creating a new business, first of all, is an act of rebellion. that means I don't see any answers out there good enough for me to stay put. I feel the urge of changing it because it's not good enough. This energy is needed if you're gonna create a new venture. This belief is needed. And those who dare to do it, they're heroes already, because this is one of the toughest journeys you can possibly choose for your life. But on the other hand, is the one that pays the better, not necessarily in money in the very beginning, but it pays in different coins. You're gonna not just feel, oh, okay, this is my salary. You're gonna feel you're gonna realize the importance of changing things, because you're gonna see the results over somebody else's lives, over the market that you're addressing, over your customers. You're gonna see change. You're gonna change the lives of your employees. You're gonna change your own and your family life exactly as a result of successfully creating a new company. So I would like to congratulate you at this point, because everything else we can say is just to support and help you in moving forward in this journey. It is that there is one comparison I always do with friends of mine who still works in the financial market, and every time we meet, they are jealous. They tell me, Rodrigo, I would like to do what you do. And I said, okay, why don't you start right away? And the answer is, yeah, but you know, my salary is big enough. It's too big for me to just quit. And this is interesting, because there's room for everybody, right? There's no right or wrong. But in their case, I have many friends exactly like this. And I have this conversation pretty much once a month, every time I meet them. And at the point they are, they're still in love with their, you know, employers, not the companies per se, but all the package and everything they have there. And that's okay, because to move to the other side of the wall and to become an entrepreneur, you need the energy. You need this belief that, okay, I'm going to start something. I'm rebelling against the system because there are already companies doing some sort of a solution for that, and I'm not happy enough. So I'll challenge them by creating something new. That requires a lot of energy. Let me help you to organize a bit of it. There are 6 questions you should ask yourself in the very beginning, and you should keep asking yourselves along the way, because these 6 answers will help you to get there. There are a lot of other things you can do, but this, I would say, if I can frame some sort of an advice, it's going to be, keep these 6 questions on your mind every time, because by going back to them and checking if you're already there, this will help you to get there. First one, why would the customer use your solution? This connects to problem validation. Rodrigo, what is a problem validation? This is you making sure there is an opportunity out there, or there is a problem out there that needs to be solved. And the opportunity itself is going to be solving the problem. So, okay, I have met thousands of entrepreneurs. I have mentored thousands of entrepreneurs. And this is the one question most of them don't pay attention enough. Oh, okay, I have done that. I have validated the problem. How? How did you validate? Is your validation good enough? Have you talked to those who have the problem? Have you collected the data to learn from it, and to then design later on a solution. If you have done it like, oh, I have done it, I have talked to the 1, 2, 3, this is not good enough. You should talk to a lot of them. You should put an effort in understanding the problem as best as possible, because the winning solution comes from those who actually better understand the problem or the opportunity or both. The very next question, what are your products and specifications that the market wants? This, in other words, is, okay, I understood the problem. So what are the features I need to deliver a solution to start with? This is not about having 30 different features. This is about having the most important 3 features that later will become 5, 7, 10, whatever. But you should start with the most pressing features to address the core of the problem that you're dealing with. Rodrigo, can I deal with the symptoms instead of the core problem? Yes, you can. But then you're going to be a startup that is focusing on efficiency. Hey, the problem is that 100% of the trash there's nowhere to go with that. Okay, now I have a solution that addresses 10%. Great. But this is efficiency. Efficiency creates value in a different velocity than if you go for the core problem. The core problem changes markets, changes industries, changes society. Symptoms creates efficiency matters, and you can create a company to deal with that. And that's okay, but you need to know what you're doing, because everything you're going to have to do afterwards will differ. Third one, what are the essential experience that the market wants? So again, specifications deals with your service or your product being capable to perform what? The experience the market wants. So in other words, problem validation, first one, about solution, second one, if the solution fits the market, third one. The next 3, can my company deliver it considering the opportunities and threats? In other words, is it feasible to do it? Rodrigo, I have developed a new source of energy that solves all problems we have with sustainability. We won't be needing oil or gas or anything else. It is like 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters. The cube, very small, very easy. Okay, how much does it cost? $1 trillion per year. It's not feasible. So whatever you do, it must be feasible in that regard. Not just like you have to deliver it. You have to consider all the threats. You have to consider the next question, can we do it in the right price? Can I be competitive? And the last one, can we fund the process? Do we have the resources? And I mean, by resources, I don't mean money, only money. Of course, money may help all the other resources, so you can acquire other resources if you have money, but in general, we're talking about time, money, people. These are the 3 most important resources, because if you have money, you can pay for infrastructure, you can pay for technology, you can buy computers, you can pay for Amazon, whatever. If you have the right people, you can build the solution you need, but you need time also. So keep this in mind every time. You're going to be addressing the problem, and if it's validated, the solution, if it fits, if it's feasible, if it's competitive, and if you have the right resources to do it. In one way or another, all the 6 things will be embedded when you pitch investors. Somehow, it must be there. Okay, so Rodrigo, how about the process, right? Because we are talking about creating new companies, tech-based, science-based, whatever. There is a process. There is kind of a journey, right? We have steps to accomplish. Yes, you do. All entrepreneurs have. I myself prefer the approach of a venture building approach because of specific reasons. I won't bother you with that, but one way or another, venture building, incubators, accelerators, programs itself, they're all there to help entrepreneurs to create such new ventures. And one way or another, they're going to provide you with some sort of a framework that covers at least this 6 steps. This is a high level framework. So the first part is going to be discovery and exploration. This is you deepening your knowledge of the problem or the opportunity from the users, the market perspective, benchmarking with competitors, mapping technologies that are already there, trends, and defining the mission of the new business you're creating. Activities are, that you're going to be accomplishing during this step will be like benchmarks, desk research, finding trends, product discovery, business discovery, experimentation and immersion. This is not experimenting solutions. This is experimenting the problem. Founders agreements, version 1. This is, okay, I'm going to do it with a group of people. So you need at least the basic of a founder agreement in place to agree on the basics, right? Doesn't need to be something very, let's say, formal, but it must be something that is good enough to cover the basics. Once you have done this, you're going to move into the design step. This is you using a user-centric design approach, ideating, or in other words, creating ideas or doing ideation. All this is basically, now that I understand the problem, the market, the competition that's out there, the technology is out there, how it's done nowadays, I can explain better what is missing. I understand that, I have experimented that. So with this knowledge, I can move into design, because here you're going to be trying to figure out hypotheses to solve it. At this point, you're creating hypotheses, right? So what you need is to ideate the best possible solution to capture the problem or opportunity, meeting the needs of the user and the market. And in case you have partners, that's what you're doing. And you're going to do it through designing the scope, the features, the business journey, the design sprint to ideate and to create all these answers. You may prototype, proof of concept to check, to make sure. I'm not sure you have heard about the first prototype Google developed for Google Glass. Google Glass is a product that's no longer out there in the market. But in the very, very beginning, they had helmets, a piece of paper attached to the helmet that with a curve, so it would be in front of the person, a small mirror attached, and a projector back there to project the image in the mirror, just to check if it would make some kind of sense. This was the proof of concept. They have then, from this one, they have moved into a glass. And at the end of the day, when they reached the market with the product, the market was so much more advanced than they were expecting that the glasses didn't make any sense whatsoever at that point. Once you have done this, you're going to go for step 3, business design. You're going to be transforming the solution into a new venture. You're going to design this new venture, how it's going to work, what's going to happen, etc., with a clear vision of the business and technological developments. Your roadmaps, what do we need to do from this point on to develop the technology, to launch the business, etc., and the necessary resources to make it happen. So you're going to be going for business model, branding, value proposition validations. You're going to go for roadmap, tech, business. You're going to build up your first pitch deck version. It's going to go a long way until it's ready for investors, but you're going to be doing the first version here. You're going to start channel validation. You're going to test drive what is the best channel to use it for it, to launch it, to launch my business. From here, you're going to go for your MVP and all the iterations that will come after that. Iterations means you're going to launch your MVP, you're going to test it, you're going to learn out of listening to your users, you're going to iterate, you're going to change, you're going to upgrade, you're going to completely change it depending on what is going to happen. And all this process will help, will happen here. Step number 4. So you have the learning cycles of test, iteration until you have the product market fit. All the first 3 steps, they will be dealing with what we call problem solution fit. You must understand the problem. You're building up hypotheses of solutions. You're kind of trying to test drive them. You're trying to figure out if you have a problem solution fit. Here, from 4 and on, we're going to be discussing product market fit, because here you have a basic solution that you're launching and you're trying to validate if the market will pay for that. So you're going to be adjusting scope, features, communication, positioning, and business model. Also the tech development. Next will come incorporation or updating your business entity in case you have incorporated already. You're going to be dealing with traction growth. So you launch the solution, you need a strategy, you need partnership development, acquisition of channels. You're going to have to select the channels. You're going to have to metrify, to create metrics or to use metrics that are already well known to make sure your business is moving in the right direction. So founders agreement version 2, launching plan, marketing plan, partnerships plan, growth metrics, digital presence, branding, communication readiness. And step number 6 is about like launching and fundraising. Some of these steps will be happening at the same time. Part of each one will perhaps start in conjunction with the previous step. So if you are incorporating on number 5, that means you're hitting the play button on number 6. Perhaps you have already launched it here. So it's not a matter of, okay, I'm going to write down this on a stone and nothing can be changed. It's not like this. This is to give you a perception of how you're going to evolve from 0 all the way into having a company in the market. You're going to have to pass through these steps. And because if we're talking about software is relatively easy to develop, right? If you have a software developer or if you are a software developer, great, right? You can sit down on your home, you can develop your own software and launch. This is good, but it's not about launching the software. It's about making sure the value your software is delivering to the end user is good enough to solve the problem the user has. And as such, the user is going to pay you as a reward for your efforts. Launching a business has everything to do with the entire cycle, not just launching the software. So It is not going to be about the idea. It's going to be about the problem. If you want to be an entrepreneur, the first lesson is you must become an expert in learning about problems until you find the problem that you can solve. The problem matters enough for you in order for you to spend your time, your money, your efforts, and to go all this journey into a solution. So it's always about the problem. Ideas are dangerous in one way for entrepreneurs. It's great to have ideas, but unless the idea solves the problem, you're not going to have a business. In other words, you should pay attention to not become too much attached to your brilliant idea. So you try to force your idea into the market, because that never, ever works well. It's not about the technology, nor the user. It's about people. Okay, here I always have problems with software developers because how come it's not about the technology? It's not about the technology. And it's very simple to explain. Let's imagine the best technology we may have today to solve whatever problem we choose. Let's imagine we're gonna leave this week, and by Monday morning, 8 a.m., you turn on the TV and somebody announces this. We have just discovered a new thing, and this new thing completely changes everything, and it's free and available right now. And it's much more efficient, much better, much faster than yours. Will you change towards the new technology or not? As users, we do. So as companies, we need to understand this. It's not about the software I have, it's about the value I deliver. So if I can deliver the same value using a different technology, and it's because of that, it's going to be cheaper, faster, better, whatever way, we have to do it. So we can't get too attached to the software itself. The software will evolve, eventually will die, substituted by a better software or a better whatever technology. Okay, Rodrigo, so I can understand that, but how about you mentioning it's not about the user as well? Yes, it's about people. When we call them users, we are boxing these people into something that is, okay, users want or need A, B, C, and D. But there are other things in motion. We can't go to work without, all our troubles, all things happening to us, all the good and the bad, the joy and the days that we are not that happy. We are people. So people change. Doesn't matter if you provide me the best and the most efficient software today, I'm going to change over time. And perhaps I'm going to realize I need something different for one reason or another. So this is to remind us that we must keep our eyes open and our focus on the mission. The mission is to solve the problem. So you're going to feel free to move around, to change technology, change features, change things, exactly because what you want is to solve a problem to those in need. It is not just about profits. It's never just about profits. In the nowadays society, there is a very relevant difference we must address, which is profits are completely different than prosperity. Profits is me having it, not necessarily everybody else having it, right? Prosperity is a concept that goes like in two ways. Prosperity is the result of having profits that are shared. So if I focus here, it's about what is mine. If I focus here, it's about how the result have benefited not just the owner, but their employees, the users, the customers, the stakeholders. Okay, last but not least, how to create impact from people to people and from us to everybody. I'm gonna finish up here because I have seen that there are some comments, etc. I'm very sorry that I missed to read it, but I would love to hear more about you, your projects, your startups, and how I may be able to help you or assist you in any way. And if possible, I want to see your faces. Let me stop sharing my presentation here. Yeah.
Yes, Rodrigo, we have some questions here in the chat. I don't know if you can read them or if you want me to read them for you.
I think we need to demystify that incorporating social impact into a company business isn't always difficult. I couldn't agree more. There's nothing wrong in incorporating both. Actually, all the business that I have launched myself, once I realized that there is no way you can launch a business without impacting lives, I started thinking about impact beforehand. I've learned this along the journey. It was not there. I didn't know about it before. I used to work in the financial markets, and when I was there, we didn't think about it, about the impact, right? Nobody taught us about impact back there. I have learned myself, and I have incorporated. And yes, I absolutely love the idea of, merging both things into, I have a business and it's like a business the way it should be done. I don't damage people, employees. I don't create bad effects. I don't create bad impact. I just try to create good impact. The other questions. Thank you for attending. I would like to ask Rodrigo if he has already invested in Africa, and if so, how we would encourage other investors to do the same and how. Also, what tips for pitching would be recommended? Okay, great. I have invested in, not in Africa, but in African entrepreneurs. I have done with a friend at least 2 or 3 editions of programs intended to help develop entrepreneurs, to help them to understand how to create companies, etc. But most importantly, in some cases, we end up helping them to find new jobs or to actually find the partnerships they need to start a business. So yes, not as much as I would like to, but at the same time, I must say that I am not a huge US investor. I am a very small investor that have learned how to multiply the effect of things by not just focusing on money, but also giving something that is much more scarce, which is my time. So we have done all sorts of different things, trying to support, in some cases, African entrepreneurs. And this friend of mine, he has been involved in helping and supporting the entrepreneurship scene in Africa for even more years than myself. This is not new for me, but it's not exactly like something that I've been doing for ages. But he has been doing this for several years now. How to bring more investors to Africa? Let me challenge. Who is Anna? Anna, I understand if you can't, but yes, thank you. I love meeting people, right? So let me challenge this question. If I were an African entrepreneur I wouldn't be trying to bring people into Africa. I would be trying to take African business into everywhere else. Let's consider the basic economic effect of this, right? Imagine this. If I'm a US investor and I'm going to invest in Africa. So because of the difference on the exchange rate, right? Instead of investing millions of US dollars, if I invest 100,000 US dollars, this is going to be transformed into a lot of local money, right? Which is going to be still not enough. And it's not sustainable because 100K today is one-time deal. An investment is a one-time deal. So if you need another $100,000, you're gonna have to do all over to find another investor, pitch again, etc., until you have it. However, if you start selling products and services produced out of your startups into Europe, US, or other markets, this is different because this is going to be, if you make it happen, sales happens every day. So this is a much more steady inflow of money that can foster change much faster than sporadic investments. In the very beginning, it's quite hard to attract mainstream investors into markets that are not well known. And by well known, I mean economically or politically or legally speaking, taxes, etc., is messy. Brazil is messy. It's difficult to operate in Brazil. The difference is that it's a huge economy that offers a lot of opportunities. And even so, we still have difficulties to attract, for example, American or European investors into Brazil. There are some here, they're making a lot of money, they're investing in startups here, but there are many more that are not here. Exactly because it's hard to understand. They have to put an effort. They have to think about an office. They have to think about other things. They have to have somebody locally, there to support and to keep an eye on the investments, right? At least. This is much harder to do. So, on the other hand, if you go out there and if you reach their market and if you show proof you are capable and you're good enough to sell to them, playing with their rules, this distinguishes you from all the other regular entrepreneurs, even the American or European ones, because they understand it's much more difficult for you to do all this compared to a local entrepreneur based in Silicon Valley who has all the opportunities, all the access, do you see what I mean? So I understand this is quite hard to swallow, and it's also hard to make it happen. But this is a lesson I've been trying to spread in Brazil. We should have more entrepreneurs going out there the same way they come here. That's fair play. If they come here, why not we go there? You have cost advantages out of the fact that the costs in your countries are smaller. Even if you start selling overseas, you may be able to pay better your people. And then you're going to create transformation, because if you pay better, you're going to change their lives in a faster pace than any other employer. So depending on how we want to see it and assess it, the answer to this question is you're looking into the wrong thing. Instead of trying to bring them in, if I were you, I would go overseas. That would be better. If you're selling them, oh, there is oil here, there is minerals, there is whatever other thing. This is infrastructural investments. These are completely different things. But when we are talking about startups, very, very small, tiny thing, one startup, if it's good enough, perhaps you should go there. If not to sell your service to them, perhaps to fundraise there. And then you bring the money into your country. Example, a seed round in US may reach $1.5 million US, even more sometimes. How much money is a seed round in one of your countries? In dollars. How tough it is to fundraise a seed rounds in your countries? How many tears it's gonna cost you to make it happen? It is hard. It is hard here. Most probably it's a bit easier here than in Africa, but still it's not that easy. Okay, any tips for someone who wants to make the first step but is scared? Yeah. I am one that can say, hey, jump the cliff and build up the airplane before hitting the ground, because I haven't done that in the very beginning back there. But what I can give you as an advice is find a way to use your spare time to test drive this before jumping. Because sometimes we need to learn some lessons and realize if this is the journey we want. Perhaps we may realize, okay, I want to work in this environment, this entrepreneurial environment, but perhaps I don't want to be the founder. I may start working in a startup, another startup first, to learn and to gain experience. There are different ways you can do it. But the easiest one is to, okay, if I have spare time, let's say whatever I do after leaving my job, then you can start with this. There are programs out there, free programs, paid programs that you can attend, and which will help you, will guide you. This program, I don't know that much about how, what's the extension of the support. Sasha did a great job presenting us a lot of things, but this was my first time, so I don't really know in details the extension of the support you have in this program, but there are programs out there. Rodrigo, there is no program in my city. Can you use the internet? If you can, there are plenty of programs in different places. And just in case it's not easy for you to do, perhaps you're gonna find information in all sorts of shapes and forms. Programs, I recommend programs for the first time because it's like a guided tour, right? If you visit a place for the first time, a guided tour is gonna help you a great deal. Next time you come, perhaps you're gonna just skip the guided tour, but first time is always good. How do you select quality startups to invest in? Also in terms of measuring their commitment levels. Okay. Most of my investments were done early or extremely early stage. So if I tell you, oh, I based my decision in the business model and bullshit, I'm lying. I based my decision in most of my investments out of the people I were investing into. And I have made a lot of mistakes. And the very reason was I was into this venture building thing. So I needed to learn all the things, all the possible problems, all the possible roadblocks, all the possible situations in order to better understand how to not standardize, but how to create ways to produce this phenomenon in a more industrialized manner. It's never industrialized totally, but it's like instead of an artist that paints, something, it is more like, okay, I can perhaps photograph and kind of copy and paste at least some aspects. So I can reduce time, I can reduce the amount of money needed, and I can get to the market faster. But there is a limit for that. But in the very beginning, always based on my nose, what I felt, what I heard, what I assessed over everything they told me, and I made a lot of mistakes in the very beginning. Then I've learned, and I kept moving forward with this concept of investing in people first. Of course, over time you get better in doing this, and then you start knowing better how to understand the dynamics in between the team. I have done investments into me companies. Me company is Rodrigo's company. Who is there? Rodrigo. There is no way nowadays to fundraise money for startups with only one person, only one founder. This is practically impossible. You may have grants, you may have university funds, you may have programs that kind of support this founder, but at the end of the day, investors, you won't have any. There is nobody investing in this, me companies. Nobody build a company to change something or to do something better than the competition that is already out there with the team and technology, etc., with only one person. This is completely impossible. So, and also, if you can't sell to the next person to work with you because you are not able to convince them, that also attests that there is something wrong. Not necessarily the person, but in the business model, there's something wrong, right? So I did it. I have never done it after the lesson learned, but in general, I would say the team dynamics, the team expertise, and this is not exactly the same as the team knowledge about the subject they're going to deal with. Sometimes, depending on what you're doing, for example, is there anybody here dealing with artificial intelligence? Just no? Yes? Raise your hand in case you are. So artificial intelligence is kind of a buzzword nowadays, is a hype word. Everybody wants to say that, right? But if you don't have people with a PhD or a master's degree in artificial intelligence development, there is absolutely no way you're gonna do it. This is not for someone like me. I'm gonna go home today and I'm gonna start learning about artificial intelligence. And then, yeah, I have a startup that does something based on artificial intelligence. What? Artificial intelligence requires a lot of data. So if they can't access such data, if they don't have a PhD degree or a master degree, or at least a PhD student or a master student that is dealing with this, that have access to larger databases to help you develop it, there is no way you're going to get it. This is one example. So team dynamics, expertise means what you know and what you're capable of. Are you capable of learning, developing a software, doing all sorts of things, the basics at least? That's good. Previous experience, I have invested in a lot of startups out of university students. Have had one exit there that was not good whatsoever. And in most cases, the business died like less than 2 years later. Most, I would say, less than 8 months, because there is this, oh, startup thing, right? Yeah, let's do it. And you need resilience to make it happen. Nobody creates a company out of nothing, in few months and make it happen and achieve success, sell it for millions. If you find one story like this, I'm gonna find the million stories of entrepreneurs who realize that, yeah, the business died. Let's try something else. And that's because, just it's not the way it happens. There is a lot of effort to be invested, a lot of time, money, not necessarily a lot of money. There are businesses that doesn't require that much amount of money. Let me give you an example. I remember a startup that did this. This guy had access to a huge database of old maps, metro maps, and images connected to metro, train stations, and a few other things in US. So this guy digitalized everything, created a showroom and a business that does this. You go to the website, you find the image that you like, you order it, and it's going to be delivered to your home framed. This guy almost automatized every part of the process, almost everything. And this startup is basically 2 people. But this is more like a lifestyle business than a startup. Although it's scalable, the way they treat it is like, I don't want to do anything else because it makes money. So they are not reinvesting the money to get better, to improve the technology, to increase the image, the database, the image database with different images. They're not researching on the preferences of the consumer. They're not doing anything. So over time, the money started to go like this. And this guy had something working really well. He made a lot of money in the very beginning, and then he lost the business just because they treated the business like, oh, this is if it is working, why bother, right? So there is no way you're gonna succeed without, over time, I mean, without putting an effort, keep your eyes open, understanding competition, changing, improving, getting better, etc. And that's okay. If it fits what you want, completely okay. Having or not a startup is not going to make you successful automatically. It's basically a promise of 10 years of hard working. That's a startup. Between 5 to 10 years of very extremely hardworking period of your life. You're gonna have to open your. Let me rephrase it. You're gonna have to postpone a lot of things, exactly because you're gonna be so busy making it happen that perhaps holidays. Yeah, I haven't done it over the last 12 years. First time was this year, 1 week. I thought about 2, but I traveled back to the office because we had a contract happening with the customer. So I was planning for 2 weeks. I end up with 1, and that was it. I am very happy with what I do. If I knew it before, I would have spent my entire life doing this. But most probably I wouldn't be ready. Okay, so measuring commitment levels is basically measured in the very, very, very beginning out of the time you're spending in your business. So let's say, oh, this startup doesn't provide me any money, so I'm gonna have a job and I'll use my spare time. No problems whatsoever. However, if your startup start moving forward, there will be a moment you're gonna have to decide what is the most important thing for you, your startup or your job. If it dies, okay, but if it's moving forward, the day of I would say there will be a day you're gonna have to decide on it. What is the level of your commitment? So, for example, I have heard pitches from entrepreneurs asking for money to pay their salaries, so they would be able to quit their jobs to work exclusively on their startup. And then I saw the fact that, okay, I am planning to have the same salary. I understand perhaps people have a need and can't earn less money. Okay, I understand that. But on the other hand, if it's your money, would you pay somebody else's salary without results? Because if it's a salary, if we are discussing a salary, perhaps this is my company and I'm hiring you instead of being your company and I'm betting on you. Do you see the difference? So the founders and co-founders must understand this. If you're gonna ask somebody else's money along the journey, this person is betting on you, your abilities, your competences, your in everything that you bring to the table. And the least I expect is we kind of invest the same thing, not in money terms, but like I'm putting the money, you're asking, you're gonna have to put your time. This is like, what? You need my money and you're gonna keep doing whatever else? That doesn't make any sense. So commitment comes from how much are you investing of what you have that is precious, your time. If you're, okay, I used to have $10,000 as a salary, a monthly salary. Now I'm gonna have 2 because I'm gonna be working on my startup. If you're willing to do it, this shows commitment because you're taking the risk the same way. If the money is the same for you and nothing changed and the business dies, you haven't lost anything. But I have lost my money. And it's very hard to make money every day to invest in new businesses. So I don't want to pass the impression that money is everything, because it's not. But in some cases, we're going to be measuring stuff to make sure we are betting on the right entrepreneurs. And by the way, I have done female entrepreneurs, male entrepreneurs. I have done all sorts of different entrepreneurs, different regions in the world, even the Middle East. I have been the first investor of a guy who started a company focused on energy efficiency in the Middle East. This guy, I have invested like very little money, but I did it because this guy needed the push and the incentive of someone saying, I believe in you. And he had everything ready. The only thing he was suffering from was like he was feeling insecure. And I did it just to help him. Hey, I believe in you. This guy is doing amazing stuff in the Middle East. So I understand that there are out there, not all investors will be fair. Not all investors will be willing to equally invest in women or men or different regions or other diversity. But one good news is that the number of impact-driven investors is growing in a pace I've never seen before over the last 12 years. I don't know if they want to kind of pay for their conscience. I don't want the reason. I don't know the reason that explains it. I have my educated guess, but the fact is a lot of people are becoming impact-driven investors, a lot of angel investors, which is great because, for example, coming back to the question about bringing investors into Africa, Africa has one thing to offer, which is impact. How much impact you can create over what you're doing. And this, if you want to bring money in, this is the perfect argument, provided that you can metrify and you can show off your results.
Thank you, Rodrigo. We are running out of time, so I don't know if someone would like to ask a last question or if Rodrigo wants to share some last thought. Otherwise, I would like please ask you to turn on your cameras for our family photo. Georgiana from Makers Hub is here to take the photo, so let's wait a few minutes for people to be able to turn on the cameras.
Yes.
Very good to see all of you, or almost all of you. Bruno Correia is either Portuguese or Brazilian or...
He's Portuguese.
Okay.
É português.
Okay, and I think we are ready for the photo. So please smile. Thank you so much, and thank you for everything. It was great, the whole webinar.
Yes, thank you, Rodrigo, for sharing all your thoughts and experiences with us. It was really great. And thank you for sharing, for answering the questions with such detail. It was really good.
My pleasure.
So thank you very much,
Okay.
Rodrigo, and all of you for being here for this almost two hours. I hope that you have a very pleasant rest of the week and the day, and keep sharing your thoughts with us, your questions with us, and keep appearing to our webinars and workshops and master classes, of course, and keep on track what AfriConEU project is doing. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great to see you. I hope to see you soon. Enjoy the journey.
Thank you.